Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone.
Representatives from the LAPD say that an accused thief didn't quite think through his escape plan this week after he attempted to flee the scene of a robbery in an autonomous vehicle, but apparently never considered that the car might have built-in safety features. According to reports, the whole thing started just before 8:30 p.m. on January 6th when the male suspect, who so far has not been identified by name, went into a Ralph's grocery store at the intersection of West 3rd Street and La Brea Avenue. The exact details of what happened inside have not been revealed, though what we do know is that police received a 911 call minutes later stating that a man had robbed the business and attacked security guards. One of the guards was allegedly doused with pepper spray when they attempted to stop the suspect from fleeing the scene. However, authorities caught a lucky break when they learned how the man had made his escape. They were told he had been seen hopping into a Waymo driverless taxi. While the suspect likely thought the vehicle was pretty convenient, what he apparently didn't know is that Waymos make terrible getaway cars. You see, they're programmed to pull over when they hear sirens or detect emergency lights. This is precisely what happened when officers located the vehicle not long after, just 3 miles from the crime scene. The suspect was quickly taken into custody. As funny as this all is, apparently, the suspect in this case is far from the only person who doesn't understand how these vehicles work. Just days earlier, another man learned the hard way after he allegedly tried to jump into the driver's seat of a Waymo while drunk and steal the car. In case you're wondering, that also went about as well as you would think.
Representatives from Louisiana's Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office say that a pair of teenage high school students have been arrested and are facing multiple charges this week after they allegedly attempted to frame one of their teachers and ruin his life by making it seem like he was a sexual predator. The whole thing started on December 18th, 2024, when authorities were notified about a concerning situation at Central Lafourche High School in the community of Mathews. Police were told that a male teacher there had been accused of sending X-rated messages to 2 female students who were just 15 and 16 years old. When detectives began investigating, they were shown the communications, which had been sent via an online instant messaging platform. The messages had come from accounts that appeared to belong to the male teacher, or at least that's how it seemed at first glance. However, as authorities dug deeper over the next 2 weeks, it became clear that something wasn't quite right. They now say that's because the 2 female accusers fabricated the whole thing. Upon obtaining search warrants for the teens' phones, police discovered that they were the ones that allegedly set up the accounts that had sent the inappropriate messages. The female students had specifically tried to make it look like the victim owned the accounts to frame him, and in order to make things more convincing, had reportedly shared screenshots of the conversations with their friends to make rumors spread faster. Police say that one of the 2 suspects eventually admitted to what they had done. On January 6th, both girls were arrested and charged with 1 felony count of false swearing for the purposes of violating public health or safety, as well as cyber stalking and online impersonation. They were placed on electronic monitoring and released into the custody of their parents. Because of the girls' ages, neither of their names have been released to the public at this time. Following the arrests, Lafourche Parish Sheriff Craig Weber shared his gratitude with his investigative team for their diligent work. He stated in part, quote, "Someone's life can be instantly ruined by a false allegation, and I am proud that our investigators were able to get to the bottom of this. Technology has made it very easy for people to try to manipulate the truth, but technology also makes it easy for investigators to ultimately find the truth."
Authorities in California say that a man barely made it into 2025 before finding himself behind bars after he was pulled over for suspected drunk driving and accidentally said the quiet part out loud while being questioned by police. It all started at around 12:40 a.m. on January 1st when officers with the Murrieta Police Department noticed a car driving erratically. They decided to pull over the driver and question him about whether he'd been drinking. Things didn't get very far before this priceless interaction.
Hi. Hi. My name is Officer Bridgewater, Murrieta Police Department. Today you're being stopped for a DUI investigation. Do you have your license on you?
I do.
Okay. Where are you coming from?
I was just dropping off my friend because I'm the DUI tonight, and I was dropping her off near the In-N-Out off of Temecula. Okay. And I'm heading my way back off of, Jefferson.
You're the DUI tonight?
Yes, sir.
Do you mean to say the DD?
If that epic Freudian slip wasn't enough to confirm officers' suspicions, what happened next certainly was.
I had a beer and some champagne a couple hours ago, but...
though the driver claimed he'd only had a bit of beer and champagne a couple hours earlier. When asked to take part in some field sobriety tests, he nearly fell over multiple times.
1, 2, 3. You're good, just continue. That's 9. That's good. Keep your foot out in front of you, okay?
As you might imagine, the whole thing ended up in the man being arrested. So in fact, he was the DUI that night. The Murrieta Police Department posted the body cam footage to their Instagram page this week, where they also reminded the public to drink responsibly. So far, the suspect's name has not been released.
Authorities in Cochise County, Arizona say that a man has been arrested in connection with a truly nightmarish case after he allegedly held an elderly woman captive last week and also murdered her boyfriend. The whole thing began shortly after 8 p.m. on January 3rd when Cochise County police were called to a residence in the community of Pearce with reports of a disturbing situation. A 75-year-old local woman said that she had been the victim of a kidnapping, one that she had only just managed to escape from. Upon arriving at the address where the 911 call had been made, officers spoke to the woman, who told them about her harrowing ordeal. She explained it had started earlier that afternoon when she was at her home a short distance away. The woman stated she had been in her workshop at the rear of her home when out of nowhere, a man dressed in dark clothing and wearing a mask walked in. The man pointed a gun at her and forced her into the house, where he restrained and blindfolded her. For the next several hours, the woman said that she'd been held captive, during which time she heard several loud noises. She had no idea what was happening, but eventually she'd been led from the house and moved into the back seat of her own vehicle, a silver 2007 Chevy Avalanche. The woman said she'd been driven around by the male suspect until the vehicle came to a stop. The man got out and she believed he'd gone into a nearby Dollar General store, so she used this as an opportunity to escape and run to the closest residence for help. Police were quickly able to identify the suspect as a 37-year-old local man named Ryan Prairie Rocca. Unfortunately, he was long gone by the time authorities checked the Dollar General, but officers immediately launched a manhunt. The urgency of that manhunt escalated significantly when the 75-year-old victim mentioned that her 67-year-old boyfriend should have been back at the house where she was kidnapped. When police went to investigate, they discovered that the man had been murdered. The search continued for several hours until authorities located Rocca inside of an abandoned RV about 20 miles east. Following a 90-minute standoff, the 37-year-old surrendered and was taken into custody. At the time of this recording, almost no additional information is available about the incident. Neither of the names of the two victims have been released, nor has the deceased victim's cause of death. In terms of a motive, that likewise remains under investigation, though according to local news sources, Rocca had a reputation in the area for being dangerous and unpredictable. Residents told reporters that he was an on and off user of heavy drugs, and police say he had previous convictions for serious crimes. Most recently, the 37-year-old was released from prison in August of 2024 after serving time for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. This week's situation is still under investigation.
Representatives from Florida's Bay County Sheriff's Office say that a local woman's text-related mishap landed her behind bars this week after she tried to score some illegal drugs before heading out of town, only to discover too late that she wasn't communicating with the person she thought she was. The whole thing reportedly started sometime on New Year's Eve when the woman in question, 41-year-old Octavia Wells, sent a message to a contact in her phone that she believed was her drug dealer. In the text, she stated that she had $45 to spend and wanted to buy a couple tenths of a gram of fentanyl before she needed to leave town. After receiving a reply and exchanging a few more messages, Wells agreed to meet up with the contact at a local convenience store in Panama City. However, when the 41-year-old arrived on January 6th, instead of finding her dealer, she was greeted by waiting officers from the Bay County Sheriff's Office. You see, it turned out that Wells had confused the number for her dealer with that of an investigator with the Sheriff's Office, whose contact information she also had saved in her phone from a prior interaction. The dealer and the investigator reportedly happened to have similar initials, hence the mix-up. A search of Wells's vehicle allegedly turned up a variety of drug paraphernalia, some of which tested positive for fentanyl. She was arrested and charged with unlawful use of a two-way communication device, possession of drug paraphernalia, and driving while license suspended or revoked with knowledge. In a statement about the incident this week, police reminded the public, quote, "Be careful who you text."
Representatives from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police say that a messy love triangle turned deadly last week after a man allegedly attacked his ex-wife and her girlfriend in a chilling broad daylight ambush. The whole thing began at around 4:45 p.m. on January 3rd, when Las Vegas police received a 911 call from the suspect, 41-year-old Adrian Rodriguez Guillen. Rodriguez told dispatchers that he had just shot someone in the area of Saks and Blanton Drives in the East Las Vegas Valley, and that they were in need of immediate help. When officers arrived at the scene, they spotted two vehicles parked in the middle of the road. Inside one of them, a Hyundai, they found two women suffering from gunshot wounds. One of the women had been shot in the hip and was rushed to a hospital. However, the other victim, 40-year-old Adriana Herrera, was not so lucky. She had been shot multiple times in the body and head and was pronounced dead at the scene. While being treated for her injuries at the hospital, the surviving victim identified herself as Rodriguez's ex-wife. She stated that she and Adriana had been in a relationship and that he had ambushed them because he was jealous. The woman explained that she and Rodriguez had previously been in a 24-year-long relationship. They were married in 2001 and had 7 children together. Even after divorcing in 2013, she stated they continued to live together and had an on-again, off-again romantic relationship. However, things started to get messier a year and a half ago when she began seeing Adriana as well. They began their own on-again, off-again romance, and making things even more complicated, all 3 of them worked together at Harry Reid International Airport. The woman told officers that about 2 months ago, she had decided to end things with Rodriguez for good and pursue her relationship with Adriana. That's when she said Rodriguez started to become increasingly threatening towards them. Among other things, she claimed she had told them he would, quote, kill them and send them to hell. On the afternoon of the attack, Rodriguez reportedly decided to follow through on his threats after his ex-wife told him that she planned to spend time with Adriana. After leaving the house, he waited for Adriana to come and pick his ex-wife up, hiding his car behind a neighbor's truck. When they went to leave, he pulled in front of them, attempting to block them in. Though Adriana was able to reverse and keep driving, Rodriguez followed them and cut them off again once they were forced to come to a stop in traffic. That's when he allegedly pulled out a rifle and began shooting at Adriana. According to the ex-wife, after killing Adriana, Rodriguez pulled out a handgun and motioned as if he was going to take his own life next. However, when he saw that she was injured, he stopped and called the police. Rodriguez was arrested shortly after the incident and is now facing numerous charges, including open murder with the use of a deadly weapon, attempted murder with the use of a deadly weapon, first-degree kidnapping resulting in severe bodily harm, first-degree kidnapping with the use of a deadly weapon, and burglary.
Authorities in the town of West Greenwich, Rhode Island say that they're trying to get to the bottom of a shocking and unspeakable crime after a local man allegedly killed his entire family, including his pregnant wife and his 2 young children. The horrifying situation was uncovered shortly after 10 a.m. on January 3rd when a coworker of 39-year-old Danielle Arruda contacted police and asked them to conduct a welfare check on her and her family. The coworker explained that Danielle, who worked as a paralegal at a local law office, had not shown up for work in several days, and no one could get a hold of her. When officers arrived at Danielle's home on Cheyenne Trail, they found the place locked from the inside with no signs of forced entry. However, as they made their way in, it was clear something awful had happened here. Police would ultimately recover the bodies of all 4 members of the Arruda family: Danielle, her 6-year-old daughter Adele, her 2-year-old son Felix, and her 39-year-old husband Nicholas. All of them had suffered fatal gunshot wounds. While there were no signs of a struggle, an investigation of the home reportedly made it clear what had happened. Police now allege that Nicholas Arruda shot and killed Danielle and the kids before dying of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. A spokesperson for the department said that it was one of the worst crimes he'd witnessed in his 30-year career. Though the how of the situation was quickly determined, the why behind it appears to be a different story. According to those that knew the Arruda family, they never saw anything like this coming. As far as they were aware, Nicholas and Danielle were a happy couple and were loving parents. Danielle supported them financially, while Nicholas was a stay-at-home dad who homeschooled the children. He had previously worked as a painter, though apparently stopped following a back injury. Police likewise say that they were not aware of any previous issues with the family. In a statement, they told the media that while Nicholas had a previous arrest for a domestic violence incident in 2014, this was in a previous relationship. They stated that they had never been called to the Arruda residence before in the entire time they had lived there since 2019. Currently, authorities say that they are still investigating and that the search for answers is ongoing.
Representatives from the South Dakota Attorney General's office say the charges have been laid in connection with a gruesome murder case after a mother was allegedly brutally killed by her boyfriend last week, shortly after she had warned friends that he was threatening her. The case began late on the afternoon of January 2nd when police in the city of Yankton were contacted by 3 women who said that they had uncovered a horrifying crime. After failing to hear from their friend, 41-year-old Heather Bodden, in over 24 hours, they had traveled to her apartment on Memory Lane. There, they said they had discovered what they believed was Heather's headless body. It didn't take long for police to zero in on a suspect. The same group of friends told officers that Heather had texted them in the days leading up to the crime, explaining that her boyfriend, 32-year-old Craig Allen Nicholas Jr., had been threatening to kill her. When police reviewed surveillance footage at Heather's apartment complex, they saw 2 men entering and leaving her unit between 10 and 11 p.m. The men were interviewed and stated that they had been there to use drugs with Heather and Nichols that night, but claimed Heather had been alive when they left. As police reviewed more of the footage, they saw that Nichols had gone in and out of the apartment alone numerous times between 2:50 a.m. and 6:45 the following morning. During some of those trips, he appeared to be carrying trash bags with him. Things got even more disturbing when police conducted a thorough search of Heather's apartment. Inside, they found a bag of bloody clothing that was labeled as belonging to Nichols, as well as 3 weapons that were wrapped in a floor mat. Horrifyingly, they also found Heather's head, which had been hidden in another plastic trash bag. While Nichols reportedly denied any wrongdoing and refused to cooperate with police, even more evidence was allegedly found inside his home. He has now been charged with second-degree murder and first-degree manslaughter, as well as 2 counts of contempt of court. Heather's devastated family have taken to social media to express their grief and shock at the incident, saying that she was an incredibly loving mother. They also set up a GoFundMe account in part to help with funeral arrangements, but also to assist her 12-year-old daughter, who has now been left without her mother. At the time of this recording, Craig Nichols remains in custody at the Yankton County Jail. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously. Thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.